Men, women, children. And you know what happens when you abandon people who are deemed to be collaborators by the Ukrainian government? We saw that in Bucha. We've had the conversation about Bucha. We know what happened in Bucha. They were slaughtered by the Ukrainian security service. And guess what's happening right now in newly liberated Kharkov? Death squads are going around, kicking down doors. They're putting Z's on the homes of people who are accused.
Let me just jump in quickly. What I know that happened in Bucha, and I'm not I wasn't able to draw any clear conclusion, a clear enough conclusion from my point of view as the editor of the Gray Zone to make an assessment like the kind I made around the dramatic theater in Mariupol. But I did see Sergei Khorotik, boatsman, the neo-Nazi from Belarus, who appeared to be calling for shooting suspected Russian collaborators on camera. I mean, that was clearly taking place during the mop-up operation. You had some of the worst fascists affiliated with the Ukrainian National Guard and the battalions coming in there.
The Safari unit.
Yeah, you did see dead bodies with aid packages, rations that had been handed out by the Russian military when they were there.
With white armbands.
Some of those dead bodies had white armbands, which supposedly which were said to signal support for the Russian forces, that these were ethnic Russians, people who wanted to assist them. So, but I can't, I don't have concrete evidence that they were massacred, that this was a false flag per se. However, we're seeing a pattern take place, and the pattern could be that, the Russians just kill everybody and leave behind mass graves. Well, one other thing that was clear to me, I'm speaking from my own point of view from Bucha, was that many of the mass graves contained the territorial defenders. They contained Ukrainian combatants. And when the Ukrainian Interior Minister and Anton Goroshenko, who shepherds the U.S. media around while he's running this kill list, which we'll talk about in a minute, he's an advisor to the Interior Minister. When he was bringing all the journalists there to film the bodies from the mass graves, many of them had BDUs, battle dress uniform on. They had fatigues. So, it's a lot like we saw in Syria, where combatants were passed off as people who were massacred in prisons in order to create this dramatic spectacle and generate sanctions and outrage. And now Zelensky has visited Izium, as you mentioned earlier, Scott, taken some photo ops, and he's now announcing the discovery of new mass graves. So, in this war, it's a hybrid war, and we're not just talking about military gains, who loses more men than the other, who gains more territory. It's also who gains the psychological and informational advantage here. And it appears that Izium will be the next site of a psychological operation to generate outrage in the West. True or not, I can't say what's true there or not.
No, I understand, and I respect that. But I'll just throw two more facts, undisputed facts, about Bucha.
And by the way, you were kicked off Twitter for your comments
for this very thing. Yeah, so I don't want to get kicked off the Gray Zone. Have patience.
Well, it's us. It's between us and Google, the owners of YouTube, and we know who's behind them. So,
yeah. Well, what I'm going to say is this, and this is fact. We have a Ukrainian local politician from Bucha appearing on social media, warning the civilians in Bucha, and this is a videotape. It's her face, her voice, and she's saying, "Stay indoors. The forces are coming in. They're going to be conducting a cleansing operation, and stay indoors and don't panic." What does cleansing operation mean? Well, what we know it means is because the Safari unit belonging to the to Ukrainian security service also on their webpage said the Safari unit is going to be coming through, and we're going to be conducting a cleansing operation against pro-Russian collaborators. So we know that the intent. Then you have the boatsman on videotape and all this stuff. So I think the pieces add together and make a pretty compelling argument that you can't be dismissive of the possibility that the Bucha massacre was conducted by Ukrainian security forces. The idea that the only answer is Russia did it, Russia did it. And here's the disturbing part about this. There's a guy named Gary Tabak. I don't know if you know who he is. He's a retired U.S. Navy captain. And he appears on Ukrainian television all the time. He's very pro-Ukrainian, and he did a videotape. And to show you in the background, he has an American flag over which is draped the right sector flag. I have to tell you, as a veteran, I'm not happy about that symbology here. But he has given interviews where he says that he's an advocate of the right sector, and he also indicates that he was in Odessa in May of 2014 with right sector. He doesn't say what he did, but we know what happened in Odessa in May 2014, where right sector stuffed 150 people into a building and set it on fire, killed 84 of them. But he gave an interview to The Sun, the British newspaper The Sun, where he talked about what's going on in Kharkiv. And he basically said that the Ukrainians are hunting down the Russian collaborators and they know how to take care of them. This is an American officer who is basically endorsing the notion of filtration, the notion of holding to account those people who are deemed to be collaborators by the Ukrainian government. I'm just afraid that we're looking at another Bucha type thing there. And another reason why I'm concerned, I don't know if we're going to talk about the kill list or something down the road, but this isn't theoretical. This is real. This is a reality. This list exists. The Ukrainians kill people who don't agree with them. And so if they're willing to kill me, for instance, I've been targeted to death. If they're willing to kill me for simply speaking out, imagine what they're going to do with a Ukrainian Russian who, opened their homes up to Russian soldiers, cooked meals for the Russians, accepted money in rubles instead of the Ukrainian figure, maybe even accepted a Russian passport. If they fall in the hands of the Ukrainian security services, I don't think they're long for this world.
Well, sorry to cut you off, Aaron. I want to pass it off to you, but obviously the precedent is Odessa, the Union Hall, where scores of people were burned alive. Yeah. There's a lot of